We're back. The summer break is over. Our regularly scheduled programming is returning. That's right, Any Given Thursday is back for the 2026-2027 Europa and Conference League seasons. David, fuck that international World Cup nonsense. Fuck all those eyeballs. Fuck all the best players in the world. Let's get down and dirty where we belong right after this. Live from San Jose, California, and Brooklyn, New York, it is the Any Given Thursday podcast. That's right, we're back. Summer break is over. Why did we take a break? Well, I needed one. Also, the early rounds of qualifying are not viewable in this country, pretty much anywhere. We cannot watch the games. Were you able to watch any games?
We get a couple random games, which for some reason are on ESPN Plus, who does not air the normal Europa League, Conference League.
Yeah, CBS
games.
Get your shit together. CBS should at least be able to air games with the ones that like BBC or ITV or whatever are covering for the UK and Ireland, right? Like at least those teams. Why can't they they don't even have to do anything. They don't have to use their commentators. I know they like, I'm sure there's like a barrier for watchability for some of these things. Like they're not going to cover things that nobody but us wants to watch. I get, as much as I'd like to think we have that kind of sway with CBS Golazo and the Paramount company. So I understand that, but I think like a couple of these games were at least that were pretty high build, ties. I mean, come on, there was a bone, There was some big games that we just didn't have access to. So do better. That's what I'd like to say.
I echo that.
Yeah. Hey, how was your summer break otherwise, David? Doing your normal job like a normal person?
Yeah, it wasn't that much of a break. I had a lot
same.
of work to catch up on after the World Cup that I'd put off for like 2 months. So, a lot of playing catch up there. But now I get to put it off for the Europa League and the Conference League instead, which is much more fun.
I went to vacation in Pittsburgh, so that tells you what kind of tax bracket I'm living in. I got a taste of the yins. Anyway,
did you try any sheets while you were there?
No.
Oh, you have to.
I know.
It's the Wawa of Western Pennsylvania, Max.
No, I did have some pierogi. I had some cigars. I watched the skyline from my Airbnb. It's funny, I could see the baseball stadium from my Airbnb, and I could see the Airbnb from the baseball stadium from PNC. Interesting experience. Beautiful park. Much like some of the parks that some of these teams are not allowed to play at because of UEFA standards and practices for what qualifies for European competitions. Get into that later, but let's just dive right into qualifiers here, David, because I wanted to start with, we're going to catch you up on who's coming up in this final playoff round next week in both competitions, and a little bit of the Champions League, because we'll get the losers of those ties as well in the league phase in the Europa League. But did you have any favorites from games and ties so far that we missed along the way from the first few rounds here of qualifying, including last week?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some teams that stick out just like year after year, right? So Bodo Glimt have been playing in qualifiers. They're always a great watch. Saint Gilloise had their head-to-head match last week, which was a really, really exciting tie, actually.
Yeah.
But looking a little further down, a team that's actually gone out, Dynamo Minsk, really surprised me. This one, I was able to catch only the highlights because obviously they were not broadcasting the game in the States, but they were playing some really, really competitive games with teams that I just was not expecting them to be able to compete with. Took out Neftchi of Azerbaijan and played Braga really close, really strong defensive performance, and almost pulled an upset there, which would have been quite the talking point for us. But
yeah, alas. I don't know what Braga is up to right now. I never do, but just when you think you've got a grasp on them, they do something stupid or different or amazing, like last year, and catch you off guard. Very briefly, I'll mention the Champions League stuff, and then we'll get into the Europa League proper. So Celje might make the Champions League, David. They have a tie with Slovan Bratislava and the winner of that will be playing League Phase Champions League football. Can you imagine little old Celia a couple years ago watching them in the Conference League, and now we're talking about them playing like, I don't know, like Real Madrid possibly? Like what the hell? This is crazy.
It really highlights the growth you can have as a club just starting in the Conference League and building on performances there. I mean, Celje, Bodo Glimt are another great
Photo,
example.
yeah. And but it's also just so much luck involved with all of this
Yes.
qualifying. Like sometimes you get Benfica in the second round of Europa League qualifying. Sometimes I mean, Celia hasn't really taken out any like quote unquote giants or big boys in this chain. They've been lucky, but at the same time, you beat who's in front of you. Also, the winner of Hapoel Beersheva and Saba will be in the league phase of the Champions League. That's pretty wild. I can't imagine the discourse of an Israeli team is in the Champions League this year. That should be a lot of fun for everybody. Neck and Bodo Glimt is a really interesting matchup, I think. Neck has been a great story out of the Netherlands last year. Really interested to see how they look. That's one I'll be watching for sure. And then the other ones, Fenerbahce Lyon is a big one. That's a hashtag big one. And we'll get, one of whoever falls out of those two into the Europa League will be like an instant sort of second tier contender, I think. Dinamo Zagreb and Viking, or Viking, if you will, Levski Sofia, AEK Athens, and then Celtic Lask, all teams that would be interesting to watch in the Europa League. Any comments before we move on?
Yeah, it's the Fenerbahce Lyon one is really the eye-catching draw, and that will at least be broadcast over here. So definitely be probably full attention on that one. But
good for them, broadcasting a game for a tournament they have the rights to. Bravo, fucking amazing. Congratulations. Europa League playoff qualifying round. So what I've done here, David, is I've actually given a letter grade to all these ties in terms of my interest in the watchability, and then made a little note about both teams for the most part, and see if you agree. And I've just gone down the line of how they're listed on FOTMob. There's no rhyme or reason to the order here. So let's do this. Kairat Almaty and Anderlecht. I have given this an A-. This is also graded on a scale, for the record. So Kairat, they're kind of a known commodity now because they were in the Champions League, kind of a bit of a surprise last year. They knocked out Celtic. They had big boys flying out to Kazakhstan. And Anderlecht has looked really impressive in qualifying so far. They knocked out PAOK out of the UEL last round and Hammarby before that. So they're battle tested. Kairat will be obviously an underdog coming into this, but they have the Kazakhstan leg here coming up first. That's always a win for them, and they're frisky. So who knows? I should also mention the Europa League playoff round is kind of like charmed existence because it means you've already qualified for at least the Conference League stage. So, obviously you'd rather be in the Europa League, make more money, play more games, more revenue, whatever. Bit greater esteem. But there is a nice consolation prize for losing any of these ties. Speaking of consolation here, Iberia 1999 goes to Poland to play Jagiellonia. This is a D+ for watchability because I think Iberia is going to get their ass kicked, but really cool that they're going to be in Europe this fall, and that they've made it this far to begin with. They beat Larn in the last round. Jagiellonia, meanwhile, really impressive Rangers win in a tie against them that knocked Rangers down to the conference.
Yeah, there was since we have English-speaking Twitter, we saw a lot of Rangers people making fun of Jagiellonia before the tie. Things like, "Oh, what is this? Is this my password or something?" So to see them get the
Dude,
win was kind
welcome
of
to Poland, man. I can't. Polish is the hardest language to pronounce in Europe for me. Like by not even
absolutely.
close.
I've heard it's actually quite simple to pronounce once you understand it because it's like very structured, and they do not like how English has all these different weird exemptions to the rules of the exemptions.
Yeah, well, we know English is dumb.
Polish is straightforward, but yeah, the letters just come in such an unnatural order for my English speaking brain. But the Larn and Iberia tie was actually really interesting because it basically set up who's going to be the bottom 5 in the coefficient next year. And I'll talk about that at the very end of the podcast when we do the coefficient section. But that's a huge win for Iberia because the rest of the Georgian teams have stunk it up this year. So to have a team guaranteed a league phase appearance is really, really big.
Yeah, and if you don't know about YAG, get your knowledge. Like, these guys are around every year at this level. They're a really competent team. And they expose the level Rangers is at, to be quite frank, which is, we'll talk about Rangers later, but a bit of they're just a club always in crisis, it seems like these days. And then we have, so Lek and Kale Klaksvik, two of our regulars and faves on the pod. Klaksvik has even gotten a club spotlight from us before. They are playing at the time of recording on a Friday today, so we don't know who's going to be in the playoff round against Thun yet. The Swiss club that, remember that they how long had it been that Thun lifted the Swiss title last year for the first time, and how long was that?
I don't know how long it was, but I know that they went right from the second tier to winning the title. That was
pretty incredible.
I don't know when their last title before.
I'm not sure they'd ever done
so
it before. Yeah, but they're definitely a club spotlight contender for this season. So it'd be interesting if they played Klaksvik, but although I would assume Lek would be the favorites in that tie. But naturally, they've although I think KO won the first.
Sorry, they finished runner-up in 2004-2005, which was their best performance before then.
Yeah. Really excited to see them here. Naturally, they've sucked to start this season. They've got absolutely pumped by Young Boys and then Basel. But obviously, we love KO or Key Klaksvik, if you will. And Lek is a pod regular as well. So excited to see who comes out of that. Mjølby, Salzburg. I didn't grade the last one, did I? I'd say it's a B for whoever comes out of that against Thun. Mjølby, Salzburg, I'll give a C. You'd think on paper this looks like a pretty competitive tie, but the 2025 Swedish champions actually only have 17 points from 15 league matches this season. Remember, it's a summer league. They're 13th out of 16 teams in the one place above relegation right now, and they got dispatched by Slovan Bratislava pretty comfortably in the Champions League. So I don't think Salzburg should have much concern here, and I will not be watching this. Besiktas and Kauno Žalgiris. That's going to be a C for me. This is the other Žalgiris, by the way, in case you guys are confused, because we're used to seeing the other Žalgiris on this pod and not so much FK Kauno. They've already accomplished a lot by qualifying for a league phase because they've never made it out of qualifying stages before. So they're going to get a group stage / league phase for the first time in their history, I believe, thanks to dispatching Drita and KO Klaksvik. Yeah. But, it's Besiktas, so they're probably not winning this one.
Besiktas.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one, just for pronunciation's sake. I had to look it up. So Ignatia is how it's spelled, like Ignatia. We've seen him around before. But Ignatia is, I looked up how to pronounce this, playing Lillestrøm. I'd say this is a B- because Ignatia has actually had some pretty impressive results so far, including hanging with Celje all the way to penalties. And then they beat the hell out of Shamrock in a second leg just last week, or this week, I mean. Even down to 10 men for the second half. So, I think they've showed a little something. And Lillestrøm has yet to play in Europe yet and is on a run of bad form. So I wonder, is this one of those wow, that Ignatia beat a Swedish, a Nordic team like Lillestrøm, really? I'm putting them on upset alert.
We've seen some of the Scandinavian teams. You would think with it being a summer league up there that they come in more form, maybe a little sharper, but a lot of them also come in beat up and not particularly in good form, trying to balance two leagues at the same time, which can be difficult to manage. So definitely a chance here.
Big one, heavyweight marquee Trabzonspor, starring Mo Salah and Ferencváros. Trabzonspor, you want to talk about a little bit of their transfer stuff outside of Salah? Salah obviously being the famous
the big
example,
name,
and a huge surprise, kind of out of right field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
they've added to that too. I think honestly, for me, the biggest one is Simsir from Midtjylland, who tore apart European football over the last couple of years. With
surprised he didn't go to a top 5 league, frankly.
That's exactly what I was thinking, or that he didn't take that next step to a Fenerbahce or Besiktas, a club that's traditionally a little bigger than Trabzonspor in Turkish football, but they're really splashing the cash. They got him. They got Darwin Nunez, who's going to be on massive wages.
We'll see.
Ruslan Malinovsky, who's been one of the better players in Serie A over the last decade. Older player now, but that's still a lot of experience, a lot of talent coming in there. And then Simi Lopez, who became prominent with Cape Verde over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really,
So
really
what's going on? Did they get a
interesting
cash
window.
infusion or something? Like, where are they getting this money from?
I don't know. I wonder if it's just they got the opportunity to sign Salah and said, "Well, we have to capitalize on this." You know, like
We'll see.
this is our moment here if we want to compete with the big three in Turkey. And because I
They
haven't
did
heard
win the
anything
league a
about
few
change
years
of.
ago.
Oh, yeah, so
I mean, like, I'm fascinated to see how this goes
aren't
for them.
they?
Because
They are connected to the president of Turkey, right?
are they
But I think that's them. But I might be confusing them with another Turkish
Başakşehir?
club. Oh,
What's
maybe that's who I was
Başakşehir?
thinking of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trabzonspor is like kind of famously local and like anti-Istanbul. You know, that's kind of their thing.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
like because they're the only ones outside of Istanbul that have ever really challenged
Mhm.
the big three plus, and now I guess sometimes Başakşehir. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this goes because sometimes this sort of influx could kind of backfire on you a little bit. So, curious to see how they look and how Salah integrates, obviously. Now, one of the hardest names to pronounce for me in all of European football, Universitatea. U- Universitatea. Tatea.
Can we
Craiova.
just call him? Yeah. Can we just call him Craiova?
There's other teams at Craiova. Ararat Armenia.
Okay.
That's a D for me, fam. Ararat is another Celje victim. They did eliminate Shamrock and Riga in the Champions League, though. So those are facts. Red Star and Pilsen is a good one. That's an A. I'm given. Really excellent matchup. But Red Star was handled pretty easily by Hapoel Beersheva, which isn't a great look, although Beersheva looks pretty competent this year. Maybe going to be in the Champions League, as I noted. Pilsen was supposed to play Tromsø last round, but they got to advance because of a match-fixing scandal by the Czech team, MFK Karvina, right? I don't know that.
Yeah, they had to rework some of the qualifiers because
Uh-huh.
of that. And yeah, I
Tromsø
guess.
lost to, so weird because Tromsø lost to them, right? And then the match fixing scandal came out. They kicked Karvina out of all of Europe, and I guess they were gonna have Tromsø advance, but it seems like instead they booted them down to the Conference League as they lost, and then just pushed what was I saying? Pushed Pilsen through a little bit of a strange situation, but
Well, I think
whatever.
Tromsø lost to a different Czech
Oh,
team, and then
sorry,
because
I'm mixing
of
them up.
Corvina's elimination, the
I
Czech
see.
teams got moved around, and
I
that's
see. Yeah.
how Pilsen got to advance and Tromsø go down to the third competition because of
Well,
that.
congratulations to Pilsen for qualifying for the league phase as a result of a technicality. We're all proud of you. This one's really interesting to me. OFI Crete and CSKA Sofia, giving this a B, not because of the quality of the game necessarily, but because I'm really interested in the club of OFI Crete. I'm excited to watch them. Who wouldn't want to watch a match in Crete? That sounds dope. Unfortunately, they're not going to play in their cute little historic ground, though, because it's not suitable for UEFA standards, blah, blah, blah. They have to play another one that's bigger, less cool, whatever. That isn't falling apart. Okay, fine. Sint Truiden, and Ammonia Nicosia. This is an A for me because I didn't know fuck all about Sint Truiden until recently. They had a spectacular season in the Belgian league last year. Finished third, only behind Brugge and St. Gilloise. This is also their proper European debut in this match. They only appeared in our beloved Intertoto Cup before, and they were kind of historically a yo-yo club, right? They play in a town, they're like a provincial club. They play in a town of like 40,000 people. So this is like a proper story, and I'm really interested in them. They're definitely a club spotlight favorite, I would say, for us. And Ammonia, we know, is a known commodity. They're no pushovers. So interesting to actually watch them play because I've never really spent a lot of time on St. Troiden in my life. Any thoughts on that, David?
On that game in particular, I mean, Ammonia, I have high expectations for them coming into this season. I feel like I feel this way every season with them because they're always so experienced. They always have a lot of players in their early 30s on the squad, which is kind of when you're building these top teams from mid-tier nations, what you kind of want on your team. So I have high expectations for Ammonia, and I think this is a tough draw for St. Troiden.
Tough draw for both.
Yeah.
Benfica and AGF out of Denmark. This is a D plus for me because AGF, despite being from a decent league, lost a tie pretty handily, I might add, to an Azerbaijani team last round. So that's not great. And it's also Benfica, so this could be ugly. It's insane that Benfica is even in the Europa League, frankly, and should be one of the favorites this year, I would assume. Do you have any teams on upset alert here, David, from all those that I just mentioned?
I don't know if this really counts as upset alert, but in my mind, it is. I think Crete could be on a little bit of upset alert against CSKA Sofia, who have looked pretty strong in qualifiers so far. Beating Maccabi Tel Aviv is not easy to do in Europa League qualifiers, and CSKA kind of beat the crap out of them in the first leg or the second leg. So I think they could be a sneaky strong team coming into this, and any team from Greece is probably going to be favored, but I think OFI Crete could have their hands full.
Good call. Should we move to the Conference League?
Let's do it.
Structured it a little differently here because we have this situation in the Conference League where there's an element of danger because if you lose, you're done with Europe for the season. You get no proper Europe. And that includes the big boys from the top 5 leagues. That's what makes this such an interesting week of European football. So we'll start with the big boys then. Brighton's visiting Tromsø, kind of similar to what happened to Palace, their great rivals in the Conference League draw last season, where Palace really had to scrape one out there in Norway to get through. And this is just a fuck you to Tromsø too, because Brighton will come in as the tournament favorites here. Although they are a solid team too, this is rough. I don't think Brighton will have as much trouble as Palace because they have a much more dynamic and fluid attacking squad than Palace did at the start of the season. But I don't know. Probably tough for the Norwegians here.
Yeah, Brighton should be a pretty strong contender for the Conference League title. You'd expect them to get past Tromsø.
Yeah. Atalanta got Hapoel Tel Aviv. They should be pretty pleased with that, I'd say.
I don't know. Hapoel have had a couple strong performances so far, so I'm not looking past them right now if I'm an Atalanta fan, especially because Atalanta have had a lot of turnover the last couple seasons as they're kind of rebuilding the squad. It's not the same team that won the Europa League.
Yeah, interesting to see what version of them comes out early in the season here. Then we have another incredibly hard to pronounce name, Gornik Zabaze. Gornik Zabaze.
We'll learn.
Gornik Zabaze drew Monaco. And now, this is a sneakily bad draw for Monaco, I think, because Gornik are, one, Polish giants, historically, the second most league titles in Poland, but they have not won it since the 80s. They had not qualified in Europe since 2018, and before that, not since the 90s. They've lost both their ties in Europe so far, but they were hard fought against good teams. So in the Champions League qualifying, they lost to Fenerbahce 2-1 on aggregate. Good result. And then Ferencváros 2-1 in the Europa League. So pretty brutal draws all the way down here. I think they'll be highly motivated in this first leg, obviously, and they're a good team. And Monaco, this is like a trap game for me, for Monaco, even though Monaco is very talented.
Yeah, it's also coming from the French league. Some of their teams.
Oh, here we go.
No.
I'm kidding.
Some of their teams that entered the Conference League in particular have gotten off to very slow starts in the league phase because they play. I think part of it might be the condensed nature of the league now with only 18 teams. Your preseason starts a week later than most other Big Five league teams now. That can sometimes mean that they're not quite up to speed for these games. So Monaco will need to hit the ground running because this is not a gimme opponent.
Yeah, they're still on their yachts.
Yeah.
I think this is a trap game for Monaco. Getafe and Partizan Belgrade. This is a fascinating one for me because will Getafe survive this difficult draw, or will this be like Osasuna going out a few years ago, albeit to a better team in that case, in Brugge? The good news for Getafe is that Partizan have had a really mixed start to the season, but I'm very curious to see how they look in a setting where like they're the favorite and the big boys and have to take it to an opponent. It's this like kind of antithetical to their DNA, which I think is a fascinating dynamic. And assuming they get through this tie, which they still should, um, for the continuation of the league phase, I'm just very interested. It's a fun new dynamic for us.
Yeah, it's one of the weird times where Big Five team is the smaller team, I think, in a tie. Like, I think Partizan are more well known globally than Getafe are. But obviously, coming from Spain, they should get through, but this is a tough one.
And then we have Motherwell and Freiburg. We know Scottish teams tend to perform terribly in the Conference League, so Freiburg will be pretty pleased with this, I think. Shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. No, that's probably this should honestly be the most straightforward of the games with the Big Five team, in my opinion. Yeah.
Which of the Big Five teams is going to lose?
Honestly, my gut is telling me Atalanta have the biggest chance of being upset here. They haven't been.
I think they have the second weakest team out of the 5, though.
I agree with that, but Hapoel have competed with some pretty tough opponents so far. Took out Katowice from Poland. They really handled Ludogorets pretty easily. So I feel like they've shown at least something so far in qualifiers that should give Atalanta a little bit of fear. And it's more that I'm not sure Atalanta are going to have a particularly strong season, either domestically or in this competition. I'm just not really buying into their current squad build. So I could see this going a little upside down for them. That being said, I think all these teams, all the bigger teams, will advance out of these ties.
I think Atalanta will inevitably capture some of that Fiorentina Conference League spirit and like play like shit and somehow get through.
And then lose in the final?
Yeah. Next grouping, we have Hearts and Rapid Vienna. Hearts has had a weird start to the season. Scotland could be in trouble in Europe if they don't get through, though, because I'm not sure anybody else is going to be favored in their ties here. Seems super unlikely that Hearts would have this much negative buzz going into this week because of how good they were last year. Obviously fell at the very final hurdle in heartbreaking fashion, but looked like they were sort of building a project here and still are probably, but they're really bad in their first 2 matches. They lost at Aberdeen and then lost 6-1 at Benfica, got played out of the park. They have responded by drubbing Dundee United and got, a meaningless draw home against Benfica in the second leg, but do you think was this just a brief stumble out of the gate, or is this like not the season they were expecting,
I mean, it's hard to follow up when you lose your manager and a lot of important players. It can be hard when you overperform, I think, to really kind of build on that, because a lot of the key blocks get taken away before you have a chance to set up the foundation for the next step of the club.
That's supposed to be the point of the Tony Bloom model, right? Is to withstand that, is to like to have the Brighton model of like just, rinse and repeat, replace your players and go again.
I think they'll be fine domestically to manage that, but doing that well, also balancing Europe, is very difficult for a club that's shown that they don't have the resources to spread out among all these competitions. That being said, you could say the exact same thing about Rapid Vienna, who have also shown an inability to handle multiple competitions at once and have on multiple times during our coverage of the Conference League and Europa League been absolutely pathetic in qualifiers and in league phases. So I think Hearts should be pretty happy with their draw, because this is 2 teams that could both be at risk of going out here.
Rapid hasn't lost. They were 7 for 7 winning all their competitive matches so far this year, albeit not against the strongest opposition. But Hearts might not have to worry about balancing European competitions. This feels like a 50-50 to me. Rangers and Jablonec. Used to say Jablonek, but I'm on my arc for this season is to pronounce everything accurately. That's my season arc. So I'm now saying Jablonec. How is Rangers always in crisis, David? This 1 point from their first 2 league games, outplayed over 2 legs by Jagiellonia, and Jablonec off to a nice little start to the season. I would be a little scared of this if I was a Rangers fan based on the vibes already.
Yeah, and I'm not happy about having to face a Czech team to begin with. I mean, that's a pretty tough draw, no matter how Jablonec, is that
Yep,
the correct
Yablonets.
pronunciation? Okay. Regardless of how Jablonec are on form, I mean, it's a pretty talented team coming out of the Czech league. And yeah, Rangers are always in a crisis. Like you said, it's really impressive for them to maintain this year after year and
It's
still,
exhausting.
yeah. But it was a big shock, I think, to see them drop out of the Europa League, but it'd almost be less of a shock if they drop out of the Conference League now.
That would be really, really pretty unacceptable and humiliating to be playing no European football this year. It would be really, really bad. Braga, Austria Vienna. Braga barely beat Dinamo Minsk, as you mentioned last round. Not exactly confidence inspiring. But Austria also lost both their league openers without scoring a goal, and then needed pens to beat Beitar Jerusalem. So this is kind of a shit fest. Braga should be favored, but who knows?
Yeah, and again, with the Portuguese teams in the Conference League, you kind of historically they've struggled in the playoff round, but if they get through it, it's a team that I think could, you know, build something, should easily get out of the league phase if they get there, but they have historically struggled to do that.
Yeah, Ajax go into Switzerland to play Sion. They should be fine, right?
Yeah, should be. They
They beat
did.
Shamrock, but they had a
They,
game against Shamrock in the first leg where they had literally over 6 xG
yeah,
and like won 3-1. So they
and
should
they
probably
drew the
take
second
advantage
leg,
of their
right?
chances. Yeah, but like
But I
whatever.
mean, it was wrapped up, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, not perfect. We shall see if this is finally the year Ajax pulls it all back around in the right direction and stops getting dominated by PSV. Uh, Speaking of the Dutch league, Twente and Karabag. You might be tempted to say Karabag got a tough break here, but we know how they roll. I'm never counting Karabag out, regardless of what their current iteration of the squad looks like. And I also don't really trust Twente in Europe that much, so who knows? Maybe they could
Yeah, that's
get a
fair.
few licks in here.
They probably need a really strong first leg performance.
Definitely.
Going to Karabag is always very difficult. Well, I guess you're not going to Karabag, you're going to Baku, but
Yeah.
point stands.
Yeah.
Going to
First leg,
Azerbaijan is hard.
the first leg in Holland, well, not technically Holland, but in the Netherlands. Ghent hosting Hibs. It's not a great sign for Hibs that they struggled to get past Skendia in the last round. So I'm not giving them much of a chance here. TBH.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Genter should be a pretty strong team. One of the, maybe in that like second tier of teams that we'd expect to be able to make a run,
Yeah.
but probably not to win the competition.
Yeah, they're in the GEN blank tier of Belgian football with Genk. Panathinaikos and another fun pronunciation, Radec Kralove. Radec Kralove. I'm telling you, this is my season arc. Radec Kralove. Panathinaikos will be favorites here, but the Czech side is no pushover because they actually made life pretty hard for Besiktas in the last round, and they did handle Tromso as well. So, maybe they have something to offer here.
And Panathinaikos have not looked good in qualifiers so far. They're one of the few teams we've been able to see games on because I guess someone at ESPN really, really likes Panathinaikos and wanted to broadcast just their games.
Someone's Greek.
Yeah. They looked really bad in both qualifying legs against Pox and then against CSKA 1948. They needed extra time to get past them. So they've just about squeaked through to this, and this is definitely a step up from their last two opponents.
I always appreciate when clubs tell you the year they were founded in the name. That's really useful when researching. Pauk and Braun, absolute banger of a tie here. Pretty brutal. One of these teams will be eliminated without even Conference League phase play. Braun isn't actually having a very good domestic season right now, and I think that makes them the underdogs here, but Pauk limited by Anderlecht. We'll see. I don't know. I don't really have a feel for this one. I'll have to see how they look in the first leg. In Greece, Midtjylland and Rijeka, Midtjylland is too good to be in the Conference League, just straight up. But they had the misfortune of, at least, on this tier of teams, misfortune of drawing Besiktas last round. This is unfortunate for Rijeka, too, who barely squeaked past Ilves and Derry City thus far. So I don't think that bodes super well for them against the Danish side here, but we shall see. Nordsjælland hosting St. Gallen. Really good tie here. Nord hasn't really played anyone yet. Gallen beat Sheriff and lost to Benfica, so I don't really know yet. I never really trust this tier of Swiss teams at these stages of the competition, though. They haven't historically performed very well. But so I would say Nordsjælland should get your backing here, but weird shit happens in the Conference League. Speaking of that class of team, Lugano hosting Maccabi Tel Aviv. Lugano's actually off to a really good start. They've gone 3 for 3, picking up 9 points in the league so far. But Maccabi Tel Aviv, always tricky. Should be a competitive matchup here. Recently, I learned that I've been saying like Hajduk Split and they actually pronounce it Hajduk.
Oh.
Hajduk Split. Yeah.
Man, our American inability to pronounce
Languages
things
are
is really
hard.
shining through now that you've gone and double checked all of our pronunciations.
Hajduk Split, and instead of Rakow, it's Rakuf Częstochowa. So yeah, Rakow is Rakuf, I guess.
That would make sense. The W
it would be Hajduk and Rakuf. Literally, no idea what happens in this one. This is like a classic Conference League matchup where you're just like, okay, I guess something.
This feels
will
like
happen.
a great, instead of a qualifier playoff, a knockout playoff round tie. Like this feels like these teams should have gotten through the league phase just barely, and been like kind of disappointing during it, and only to meet in the playoffs. But I guess they're getting out of the way earlier this year.
Yeah, good for them. FC Inter Turku and Copenhagen. Sure, I guess that's a game. It's one of them for sure. And then finally, the smaller league teams versus other smaller league teams. We have Shamrock and Koops. It's a bit exciting. Shamrock obviously had that incredibly...
Sorry, I meant to say this when you were talking about Inter Turku.
What?
The upset of Başakşehir last round was probably the biggest of the round. Yeah, I mean...
You're right, we should admit.
Huge upset, so I want to give them some props for that. Copenhagen, even better than Başakşehir though, so... And just more consistent of a team too. Like Başakşehir had...
How embarrassing for Erdogan,
Yeah.
How embarrassing for him.
Yeah, also, I did double
one
check.
fan.
Başakşehir won the title right before Trabzonspor, so like that's where my confusion came from
them?
as to which one Erdogan
Başakşehir is a famous Turkish club with one fan. Shamrock and Koops. Shamrock obviously had that incredibly disappointing night in Albania the past week where they blew a lead really embarrassingly. But they still have a World Cup hero on their team, so it's okay. And then Koops is Koops. What are you going to do? They had a pretty nice Conference League last year, I thought, in performance. Two old friends, Lincoln Red Imps and Larn. Bit of fun, really, for us. Sad one of these will have to go. Imps had a really competitive cycle last year, and if they pulled it off, qualifying for the league phase in consecutive years, it'd be the first time for a Gibraltar team. Pretty exciting.
This is also sneakily one of the most important games of the round because Northern Ireland are currently fifth from bottom. They're fifth from bottom in the coefficient table, and Gibraltar are seventh from bottom by like 0.25 or something around that amount. So if Larn get past Gibraltar, they will jump them, and Gibraltar will likely fall below Iberia or Georgia, who are represented by Iberia as well, because Iberia will be in league phase of either the Conference League or Europa League. So this basically determines who gets that extra European spot between Gibraltar and Northern Ireland, which is a really massive deal for both those leagues.
Any given Thursday, come for the mentions of FC Inter Turku and stay for David's coefficient corner coming up right after this. We have FC Dinamo City and Paphos. Paphos actually hung with Salzburg last round. We know they're good. So I don't think Dinamo City has much of a shot here. Drita, an Interclub de Escaldes. What an absolute banger. I'm kidding. And then finally we have the loser. Sorry, that was rude. Finally, the loser of Lech and KO Klaksvik versus Riga. But we don't know who's coming out of that tie just yet because we're recording during the game. Yeah, that's the conference league, David. What are you most excited about?
I honestly, Lincoln
Some
and
good
Larn
games.
is like
Yeah,
really
that's
interesting to me.
that's
I'm really
right in
looking
our
forward to
wheelhouse, isn't
that.
it? I doubt we
Yeah.
can stream it, but fuck. Oh well.
The Rangers tie as well. Rangers versus Yablonets. I think that could be a really interesting tie, and I think quality-wise, it's probably up there with the best in this round. So that one's got
And
my
it's always
attention.
interesting to see the big teams here because it's their first competitive match of the season. That they're straight off the training ground to like a random country in Europe, and that it's a good way to test your mettle right away. Yeah, a lot of really good games though. Hearts and Rapid is a great tie. I'm Twente Karabag. Yeah, Pauk Braun. Lot to be excited about here. Let's do a little friends we've lost along the way. Well, I will remember you plays underneath.
But we
You
don't
want
have
to
the
do
rights to that.
you want to do our
So
annual Ultimate Losers?
yes, these are the champions that went into the Champions League and then lost again in a conference league right away.
Mm-hmm.
We have from Wales, TNS, Floriana from Malta, Tre Fiori from San Marino, who are routinely on this list, Vardar from Macedonia, Petrocub from Moldova, Sudjeska from Montenegro, and
I would guess that is not a J. I would guess that's a Y.
probably. But I'm not on the same arc as you. I'm on the opposite arc. I'm learning how to pronounce things wrong.
Trying to be more ignorant by the end of the season.
Yes, exactly. More American. And then Ottert Bissen from Luxembourg.
One of my faves, actually.
Yeah, I'm
I know
honestly,
everything about Ottert Bissen.
a little surprised the Luxembourg team didn't get a win. But
I've literally never heard of that club before.
That's fair. I also haven't, but I feel like Luxembourg is like
I've
a
never heard of
little bit stronger
Sudjeska
than
either,
most
I
of
don't
these.
think. I've heard of all the other ones from this exact segment, but shame about TNS. We like
It
TNS.
is. They were really fun to cover when they made the league phase, but I feel like there might be a few years before we see them again.
Well, guys, the wait is over. It's finally time to throw to the first of the season, David's Coefficient Corner with David.
So we do actually have some history that was made. For the first time in any given Thursday history, we get to report a league getting 0 points in coefficient.
That's never happened.
Montenegro have ended with 0 points. No draws, no wins, just losses and elimination.
Damn.
It's really brutal.
Montenegro was in the league phase last year, too. In the Conference League phase. It's a big come down.
And it gets worse for the other M countries. Malta, they only get 0.5 points. That's their worst in a while. Moldova, 0.875. They go
how do you
down.
get 0.5 points? Is that like one draw or something?
I think a 0.5 would be one win and no teams advancing, and then you'd get 0.175 for a draw. I'll have to double check. I should have double checked that before this.
I thought you were Mr. Coefficient. Senor Coefficient.
Anyway.
Coefficient Chief.
Yeah. Montenegro, they continue to slide down the coefficient table with negative results, not losing points, but getting less points each and every year. We already mentioned what's going on with the battle for the bottom 5, which gives you that 4th European team if you get out of the bottom 5. Currently, it's Northern Ireland, so if Larn do not get past Lincoln Red Imps, they will likely be locked into that bottom 5 spot. Andorra, all the way up in 47th now, which is really impressive for... They don't count as a microstate, do they?
I don't know.
I feel like they're like slightly
I don't know.
bigger.
That's a you question, not me.
I know. I feel
How
like
small do you have to
they're
be
different
micro?
than like Monaco or San Marino, but they're not much bigger. So, the lowest ranked country with all their teams left, despite us kind of poo-pooing them earlier, is Scotland. So, chance to have a lot of teams in Europe, probably won't have that many though.
No. I mean, it's possible there. I mean, because Celtic is guaranteed league phase football, but literally nobody else
Yes.
is. Like they, because Rangers fucked up,
Mhm.
they and continuously, basically for years, they in theory, every one of them could be eliminated. Like Hearts, Motherwell probably will be, um, and Hibs probably will be. So, you know, if Rangers and Hearts don't do their business, that it could be an ugly year for Scotland and in coefficient.
Yeah, it's not looking particularly promising, but they're all technically still alive, and theoretically, we could have 4 Scottish teams in the Conference League, which you'd
Yeah,
think at
won't
that
happen
point
though.
one of them would have to get out of the league phase, but who knows? They tend not to.
Rangers
Um,
and Hearts would have a decent chance if they advance, but you know,
yeah. To
we
be fair,
shall
we
see.
said that about Hearts in the past and
So
have
true.
been spurned by them as well.
So true.
But
This is a different Hearts. It's a whole new Hearts.
oh, sure, sure. That's what they
Yeah.
always say.
It's a whole new. It's a rich Hearts.
Yeah. Turkey are the highest ranked league to lose a team, which was Basakşehir here, which we mentioned earlier.
Losers.
Really, yeah, really embarrassing loss for them. There are some interesting races. We talked about the bottom 5, but 22nd place, which means your team comes in one round later in the Champions League, so you're guaranteed to play European football. You're guaranteed to play Europa League football, I should say. Romania currently occupy, but there's only one team left in Europe, so there's a chance they could get jumped by Ukraine, Israel, or Slovenia, who are all kind of around there. But 2 of those countries, Ukraine and Slovenia, only have one team left as well. That will be a tough race to grab, I think, because I think it's all going to be just down to one team from each league. 10th place, which has that automatic Champions League phase spot, currently held by Czechia. Poland is right on their tails, and Poland have done a masterful job of abusing the Conference League coefficient points the last few seasons. They've pushed themselves up, so now they have teams that are going to be playing in the Europa League, likely to get a few less coefficient points, but if they can get anything, I think they have a chance to pass as well, because they don't have a team that's going to get 0 the way Czechia might in the Champions League phase. Champions
Right.
League phase. I'm going to keep saying, I got to keep calling it the group stage. I hate
Yeah.
saying league
Yeah.
phase.
League phase is a bad name.
Yeah. And then up near
It's
the
like
top.
how they call the playoff qualifying like the same. It's the playoff qualifying round and then the playoff knockout round. Like, can we fucking differentiate these, please? This is exhausting.
That's why I call it the Copo. For the
round of
knockout
24.
playoffs.
Yeah, that's
fine,
pretty good.
We can do that too.
No
But
po.
up at the top, England have a pretty sizable lead right now after 2 really great seasons. Italy still sits second, likely to be passed by Spain unless they have a great season, because Spain are dropping a really, really bad season from 2022-23. Germany fourth. Fifth is France, but after last year and picking up over 20 points, Portugal are right on their tails. So that being said, Portugal do have a chance for Braga to not get any more points if they struggle through
It's
this
true. But
qualifying playoff
Benfica
round.
should have a good
And,
Europa League.
yes, but could be counteracted by Torrense, who I'm probably butchering their pronunciation. It's the double E is confusing me. I don't know what to do with the double E there. And I haven't watched them play live yet, so once an announcer says it, I'll pick up on it. But for now, I'm just going to say Torrense. They're in the second tier. They won the Portuguese Cup last year, so they're qualified automatically for the Europa League phase. But
Yeah, very
will they
fun.
be able to do anything? That remains to be seen. It's not
Yeah, probably not.
yeah, it's a tough. If they were in the Conference League, I think I'd give them a chance to get out of the league phase for sure. But a team that was in the second tier and did not advance, or did not get promoted, I should say, that's tough to picture them doing anything in the Europa League. So
It
that
is
could
funny that
keep
it cost
Portugal
Braga
from...
Europa League too.
yeah.
They're like, come on, guys. You couldn't beat the second division team. Was it Sporting that lost to them in the
It
final?
was, yeah.
It's rough. It's a great story though, and we will be, for those of you who are interested in the already qualified teams of the Europa League, we will be discussing them when we do our big bonanza preview of the league phase. I guess 2 weeks time. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, you have anything else for the listeners at home today, David?
No, I think just really looking forward to the playoff round. It's always one of the most exciting 2 weeks of soccer there is. There's just so many games, so many interesting teams that are kind of playing for their season a little bit.
Yeah. The
And it's
potential
really,
energy
really
is
fun.
tremendous because
Yeah.
you imagine your visions of these teams in the league phase for the rest of the year, and then suddenly they're gone like that. But you want to say anything, outrageous that I can clip for social media before we cheers?
Yeah. My hot take for the season is there will not be a single English team that wins a European trophy.
Is that more wishful thinking or practical?
I think it is practical. I mean, you look at the Europa League teams, they're not going to be favorites, right?
No.
And then obviously they're not going to win a Champions League because there's no Bayern or
Because
Real
PSG
Madrid
is
or
going to win every
Barcelona
year
or
now.
PSG. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Man
Yeah.
City can't compete with these teams, and Arsenal are Arsenal, so they're not going to win a trophy. But I think it's going to
I
come
think
down
Brighton
to
could very well
have
win the
best
Conference League,
chance.
though. Yeah.
Absolutely, they have the best chance, but my
They'll be the
prediction is going to be
favorites.
the field over Brighton.
Yeah. Yeah. Monaco is pretty good.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
Monaco
they
and
just
Brighton
need
should be the
to.
co-favorites, I think. Oh, and Freiburg too, I guess.
Yeah, I expect Monaco to be a bit streaky this year. I don't think there's a lot of consistency in the squad, or at least I think a lot of their star players are inconsistent. But when they're playing well, I think they can easily beat anybody in the Conference League, and if they get hot at the right time, could easily see them running through the playoffs.
We thought
Or
some of
not
the
the playoffs,
matchups
the
last
knockouts.
year were weird for a European final. If we had like a Brighton Monaco Conference League final, how bizarre would that be? Anyway, that'll about do it for the show today. I thought we might as well cheers to Inter Turku's manager, the Finnish side, and the Finnish man, Vesa Vasara, for the biggest upset of the round,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers to him. He's only managed in Finland before. The other team he's managed is wait, fuck! I just had it. I ruined it. It's Honka.
Oh, I love Honka. It's one of the
Honka.
best named teams in European football.
Yeah, he managed Honka, and now he manages Inter Turku, and he's doing quite well. They're having a nice season as well. Second place to Kups. Yeah, so cheers to him. Cheers to Inter Turku, because this is probably the end of their European journey, but haven't they done well? See you next week. Cheers.